So we'll talk about the 3/8 drive standard sized Bergen sockets. Now these Bergen sockets are the ones with the black plastic casing as opposed to the usual blue colour that we see. You'll see that it's exactly the same, it's just black. Now obviously it comes with the sheet as well, the transparent lid and a cardboard stiffener. Beg your pardon. The actual setup is the same, except it doesn't have the Bergen label in the corner there. Now these particular sockets I've seen advertised with the black. I've seen advertised as AT sockets or something like that, or AT drive sockets before in the past as well. Now you'll notice that the sockets themselves are not only is the Bergen logo not on the sticker on the lid, but the sockets themselves are a little bit more shinier than the usual Bergen sockets. Now the usual Bergen sockets are like a polished chrome vanadium, got mirror polish. Now these seem to be plated, so they are polished but plated with a plated. So these are plated. We can take a look at them. You'll see that there is a knurl around the centre of the sockets, and there's a slight shoulder on there. Again, they're very thick walled, as you can see there. The chamfered edge, and take a look at the broaching. So a lot slightly nicer finish than the usual blue, although I suspect they're exactly the same sockets, just with a different finish, the same materials. And another interesting thing to note is that the Bergen logo doesn't come on the black sockets. It's free of the Bergen logo. It just has the chrome vanadium and the size of the socket itself. Now the inside of the square, it is notched. So there's still a lot out there that are plain, and they generally tend to be either, they either fall off the end of the ratchet, or they can be, if you've got a particularly stiff, like the old style ratchets, they can be go on quite stiff. There's the odd mark on this one. That's the actual metal underneath before it's been plated, and it's just been plated over there, but it's it's not a big deal there. So that one's the 24mm. That's the biggest one in the 3/8 sockets that they do. Obviously you got the 23. They go from 8mm back up to the 24, and I don't think they miss one. I don't think they miss a single size. No, they don't miss a single size, so it doesn't skip a beat from 8 all the way up to 24, whether you use all of those sizes or not. Now I don't necessarily have a need probably for 3/8 size standard sockets, as I do have various adapters, and I do have both 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch decent 1/2 inch sockets and decent 1/4 inch sockets, and although these are natural 3/8 drive, with the adapters obviously I can use the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch with my 3/8 drive ratchets anyway. And I do like the using the ratchets because it's kind of like a size in between the two, and sometimes it feels better to use a 3/8 kind of length and size, you know, the fatness of it and the length of it feels better to use some of the 1/4 inch stuff with, and sometimes it feels better to use some of the lower sized 1/2 inch stuff with, instead of a big cumbersome 1/2 inch and for certain jobs, or a tiny little 1/4 inch with some other jobs. Now these I bought because they were usually, they're like a lot of the other makes, they do retail around the £20 mark, but I managed to get these for £8.99. So as per usual with a lot of the Bergen stuff, you can actually shop around online and you can actually find them being sold for less than what you'd usually pay for them. That's another reason why I like the Bergen stuff, where most people just go out and buy the Bergen stuff and pay the same price as they would with anything else. If you shop around with Bergen, you can get it at a real decent price, and you can fill out your toolkit for a good budget. Now these obviously are the slightly nicer looking finish, but the blue packs are more abundant out there, and the ones they've actually got the Bergen on the socket, but they're just the plain mirror finish like we looked at before. And I've just got at the same time a blue pack of the 3/8 in deep sockets as well. I've got to do a review of them. But they're virtually exactly the same in the standard, but just with the blue packet, and obviously just the slightly duller polished finish with the blue pack. But they're just as good as well if you can pick those up. But yeah, they're nice. And one thing I've noticed about the black ones, in fact, over the is they're all absolutely bang on. Even the smallest sizes, they're all absolutely bang on. No, there's none that are slightly offset and off center. There's none that are slightly off center at all. They're all absolutely bang on. Whereas the blue sets, on the smallest ones, you might get one that's ever so slightly about 1/2 millimeter out from center. One end, but with the black ones you don't get none of that whatsoever. They're all absolutely bang on. It's like, I've got a feeling that the black sets are probably their slightly higher quality set. You know, they're just probably hand picked. The ones that, you know, are more perfect, they're aligned, and then gold chrome plated them as well, but they're probably exactly the same socket. So if you can get the black ones, you know, they are better value, except they don't have the Bergen stamp on them there. That's probably because Bergen do a few other companies. They sell stuff under Vorlux, and there was some other one I noticed the other day, and they do US Pro, and yeah. So Bergen also do as well as Vorlux, they do things for a company called, well, it's one of theirs, it is their company, but it's another name of theirs, called US Pro. So they do tools for them as well. They might do sockets for other company names as well, and that's why the chrome plated ones in their range, they might decide to leave the Bergen label off, because you know it's probably more cost effective to just produce a plain socket that's finished to a high standard but without the name logo stamped on there, because they've got to use that same socket for a few other purposes. So that might be the case there. Now these sockets, I actually, like I said, I don't really need them, but I bought them because I mentioned this to somebody on YouTube the other day, that like I mentioned before about having the adapters and the 1/4 inch and the 1/2 inch sockets that I can use with the 3/8 size wrench anyway, so there's not really much point. However, there will be a time when the 1/2 inch sockets will be, you know, in comparison, so the 15mm here, this one will be a lot thinner in diameter than the 1/2 inch. I mean the 1/2 inch 15mm, because it has to accommodate a 1/2 inch square instead of a 3/8, so it will be thicker. So the diameter will be a lot thicker, like about there. So, and that you know, the diameter of this socket might be more in 1/2 inch, you know, this kind of a diameter, for except it will be that size, so it can accommodate the 1/2 inch drive at the back. And there might be a time where I've obviously got to get that size nut in a little, you know, gap on a bike or a motorbike or a car, and you can't really get the 1/2 inch socket in there, so the 3/8 will be there. Personally, like I've said before, the Bergen sockets seem to be a decent enough build quality. The most average user in my book should have these last them pretty much the lifetime of their DIY and home vehicle repairs, I would have thought, just in case, you know, or you know, they get stolen or anything like that, then obviously you'll have to replace them. But I think just for regular use, I don't really see no reason why you should have any problems.